The movie begins in the year 2022, depicting the cumulative effects of overpopulation, global warming, and pollution that have caused ecocide. The population has grown to 40 million people in New York City alone. As a result, most housing is dilapidated and overcrowded. The homeless fill the streets, stairways of buildings, abandoned cars, subway platforms, and so on. The unemployment rate has skyrocketed, exceeding 50%. Only the elite can afford spacious apartments, clean water, and quality food. Moreover, their homes are fortified with security systems and personal bodyguards. The majority of the poor haul water from communal spigots and eat highly processed food wafers produced by a single large food processing firm called the Soylent Corporation. Their mainstay products, called Soylent Red and Soylent Yellow, are marketed as high-energy vegetable concentrates. The company has recently launched their new product, Soylent Green, which they claim can be a more nutritious and flavorful wafer derived from plankton. This will appease SpongeBob. However, like most other foods, its short supply will probably lead to weekly food riots. We are then introduced to a New York City Police Department detective, Robert Thorn, who lives in a cramped one-bedroom apartment with his aged friend Sol Roth. Sol is a former college professor whose current job is to sort through the now disordered remnants of written records to help with Robert's investigations. He often recounts the time before the ecological disaster and population crisis of the early 2000s, when real food was plentiful. However, Robert doesn't seem to be interested in these stories, finding most of them too hard to believe. The detective then leaves for his night shift job, but not before having to tiptoe over people sleeping on the stairs. The following morning, a guy named Gilbert, who is living in an abandoned car, is approached by a well-dressed man named Donovan, who hands him a meat hook for an assassination mission. Turns out that his target is a wealthy lawyer, William Simonson, who shares his lavish apartment with his mistress, Shirl. The mistresses are referred to as furniture, who have no human rights, and are passed from one apartment owner to the next. Later that evening, Shirl and William's bodyguard Tab goes to buy some food from a vendor named Brady. Although the food quantity is visibly less, it costs over $279. In the meantime, Gilbert uses the meat hook to sneak into William's mansion. As he makes his way inside, William doesn't appear shocked to see him, as if he was expecting him. "Ah, the meat hook man. Come, put it in my bum." He then turns around, allowing Gilbert to strike him with a fatal blow from behind. In the aftermath, Robert is called for the investigation of the case. He initiates his inquiry by talking to the building superintendent, Charles, who informs him that the security system malfunctioned for the first time in 2 years. Robert is then led to William's apartment, where he meets Shirl and Tab. But instead of conducting a thorough investigation, the poorly paid detective helps himself to the wealthy man's food, liquor, and some books. Not long after, the sanitation crew, led by Wagner, arrives to take William's dead body away. Robert also leaves the place after stealing some stuff from the apartment. Back in his room, he surprises Sol with various stolen items, including real paper, pencils, a sizable bar of soap, and 2 volumes of the Soylent Oceanographic Survey Report. He further astounds him with a bottle of alcohol and a piece of beef, which makes Sol emotional. Sometime later, Robert heads to work, where he sees hundreds of people lining up to collect death benefit money from recently deceased friends and family members. He goes straight to his superior officer, Lieutenant Hatcher's cabin, in order to report about William's case. He believes that William's homicide is an assassination rather than a burglary, since nothing was stolen from the apartment and the murder seemed professional. He points out more evidence to support his claim: inoperative security systems and the absence of William's bodyguard at the same time. The next day, Robert, who is suspicious towards Tab, stakes out his apartment building until he spots him leaving. Following this, he proceeds inside, where he meets Tab's live-in furniture, Martha. He asks her some questions while briefly investigating the place, but finds nothing suspicious. Before departing, he secretly takes a spoon with remnants of strawberry cake. Meanwhile, Sol is seen in a queue, waiting to collect water from allocated taps. Later in the evening, Robert is back at his apartment with Sol, and the two enjoy a delicious food stolen from William's place. After dinner, Sol shares everything he uncovered regarding William, including the fact that he was a board member of the Soylent Corporation. Before leaving for work, Robert gives him the stolen spoon, asking him to taste it. The old man can't believe that he is actually savoring strawberries that cost $150 a jar.
Oh, they're delicious.
Following this, Robert revisits William's apartment to question Shirl, who is currently having some drinks with her fellow furniture companions. He takes her to the bedroom to talk to her in private and inquires about William's friends, family, and relatives. In response, Shirl mentions a few names, and one of them includes New York State's Governor, Henry Santini. She further discloses that William seemed deeply troubled in the days before his death, and that he even took her to a local Catholic church. The conversation then takes an unexpected turn, and the two end up making out in the bed. Must have been that mention of the Pope. In the midst of their intimacy, Charles enters the apartment and begins yelling at the girls for slacking off. He even gets abusive and hits a couple of girls until Robert intervenes. He asks about the matter, to which the superintendent responds that the girls are disrespecting the building policy. In order to protect them, the detective claims that he called them for questioning. He also warns Charles against assaulting the girls from now on, threatening legal action. After sending Charles and the rest of the furniture girls away, Robert also prepares to get going himself. However, Shirl, who does not want to be alone, tries to convince him to stay for a little longer, offering him a hot shower and a lovely breakfast. The poor detective is unable to refuse such luxury, prompting him to stay. After this, the two spend some romantic time in the shower and enjoy a great meal before departing. The perks of being a detective in this world are off the goddamn chain. Early the next morning, Robert visits the local Catholic church mentioned by Shirl, which is filled with hundreds of homeless people. There, he approaches the priest and questions him about William's confession. However, the priest is visibly exhausted, overwhelmed by the plight of all the homeless people. He remembers talking to William but cannot recall the specifics. As a result, he only leaves a hint, claiming that the truth is too hard to bear. The very next day, Tab goes to the church and murders the priest in the confessional booth, ensuring that he never talks again. As Robert continues delving into the murder case, Governor Santini instructs his chief of security, who is none other than Donovan, to close the investigation. It turns out that Santini was once William's partner in a high-profile law firm and is the mastermind behind all of this. Following his instruction, Donovan relays the information to Lieutenant Hatcher, which the latter agrees with. Later that day, Robert walks into Hatcher's office to report further details and leads on the murder case. But to his surprise, the lieutenant declares that William's case is officially closed. Sensing something amiss, Robert refuses to do so and instead accuses Hatcher of bribery. When Governor Santini learns of this, he orders Donovan to have the detective murdered. The scene then cuts to the day of Soylent Green rations distribution, and several police officers, including Robert, are assigned to guard the area in case of a riot. As anticipated, chaos erupts, and authorities struggle to control the violent throng. Soon after, several large dump trucks, called scoops, designed by the NYC riot police, arrive on the scene in order to pick up closely packed rioters, scooping them in. In the midst of this mayhem, the local assassin for hire, Gilbert, appears and tries to shoot Robert. He fires several shots towards the detective with his silenced pistol, but misses his target and instead kills several innocent bystanders. Gilbert's working pro bono for sure. Seeing this, Robert chases the assailant into the dense crowd and eventually manages to catch him. He then throws him to the ground, but Gilbert rolls over and shoots him in his right leg. Before the detective can retaliate, the assailant is crushed by the hydraulic shovel of one of the police riot control vehicles. Gilbert got scooped. Later, Robert confronts Tab at his residence and beats him up, demanding to reveal the mastermind behind all of this. However, Tab opts not to utter a single word. Amidst the commotion, Martha tries to intervene, but Robert pushes her away. He then issues a stern warning to stay clear from his investigation before leaving. Following this, the detective goes to William's apartment and finds comfort in Shirl's arms. She assists in tending to his wound, cleaning it, and applying a bandage. As they converse, Shirl tells him that a new tenant will be arriving at the apartment. Since she has developed romantic feelings for Robert, she has a thought of moving out of the place, but she is not sure about it. After resting for about an hour, he leaves the apartment as sirens for the nightly curfew begin sounding. On the other hand, Sol carries the Soylent Oceanographic Survey report and goes to the Supreme Exchange, a library where former professors and judges work. With the help of these people, Sol concludes that the oceans are deteriorating and are incapable of producing the plankton supposedly used in Soylent Green. He further unveils a horrible revelation. The ingredients in Soylent Green are, in fact, human bodies. This information confirms to Sol that William's murder was orchestrated by his fellow Soylent Corporation board members, who feared that he might expose this unsettling truth to the public. Sol is so shaken by the truth that he opts for assisted suicide at a government clinic. It appears that the government has established a clinic for voluntary mass euthanasia due to overcrowding, a process referred to as going home. In the meantime, Robert arrives back home and finds a goodbye note from Sol. As a result, he frantically rushes to the clinic to stop him, but arrives too late as the process has already begun. In his final moments, Sol watches video clips showcasing a thriving Earth devoid of pollution. Robert also watches this from outside the room, which breaks him down into tears. Before dying, the old man whispers his discovery to Robert, which leaves him in shock.
"You're eating people, Bob. Anyway, see ya."
He also tells him that they need proof of what is happening before they can approach the Council of Nations.
"But I'm tapping out, so that's on you, buddy."
Robert then sneaks into the basement of the assisted suicide facility, where he sees corpses being loaded onto waste disposal trucks. He discreetly hitches a ride on one of them, which then transports him to a heavily guarded waste disposal plant just outside the city. Once inside, he is appalled to witness how the corpses are processed into Soylent Green wafers. Not long after, Robert is spotted by some plant workers and is chased. He manages to subdue two of them and flees the scene just before the alarm goes off. In the aftermath, Robert races to the Supreme Exchange to report his findings, but is ambushed by the Soylent operative Tab and his men. In a swift move, Robert gets to a payphone and calls Hatcher, who is preoccupied at the moment. He then makes a call to Shirl and confesses his love for her. However, he instructs her to stay with her new tenant for safety reasons. Moments later, he gets connected to the lieutenant and alerts him about the current situation, along with his whereabouts. Just then, the armed assailants locate him and start chasing him through the deserted streets and alleys. They also open fire towards him, and they're better at it than Gilbert, and one of the bullets hits him, causing a serious injury to his waist. Despite this, Robert manages to make his way inside the church and hides among the homeless people. As Tab enters, Robert attacks him from behind, initiating a physical brawl between the two. However, the weakened Robert is beaten up and knocked down to the ground. Fortunately, he finds a rusted kitchen knife, which he then uses to stab the assailant to death, turning him into food. After a while, the police, along with the paramedics, arrive on the scene and prepare to load Robert into the ambulance. Before being taken away, he confides the horrible secret to Hatcher, urging him to spread this news to the entire nation. The movie ends as Robert shouts out to the surrounding crowd, "Soylent Green is people." Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.